Good morning, hello everyone, Ryan here, and today I'm going to be doing another Decade Later episode, and this time I'm going to be looking back at Kanye West's Graduation album. I don't really need to introduce Kanye West at this point. You all know who Kanye West is. Kanye West, a hip hop artist with many legendary albums under his belt. A man who can't really shut up when it comes to saying stupid things in the mainstream media. And now even a man who is seeking out to make his way into the fashion industry and is sort of having quite a successful time doing that. But a lot of people that hate Kanye West as a person don't realize how much influence he's had on the music industry in many ways. In hip hop, in pop music, in starting trends that weren't even a thing before he jumped on them and started them and made them become popular. For me, I absolutely love The College Dropout, Late Registration, and even to some extent My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, although I do believe that album to be rather overrated. But one album that doesn't really get the same amount of attention as all of his other albums, I think, is Graduation. Graduation being the third in the trilogy of the college theme that he was going for with his first three albums. Now this is the album where Kanye West fully certified himself into the pop world. He became a worldwide known phenomenal pop artist because of his singles and how he changed the direction of his music in this album, as there wasn't as much focus on the production in terms of making it kind of a jazzier sounding album like the first two albums. Instead, what we got was pop sounding instrumentals and kind of dance pop inspired instrumentals, kind of like arena ready pop sounding songs like you would expect to hear at festivals or even big stadiums. It was a transformation that I don't think a lot of people were on board with because of the lack of focus lyrically, as it wasn't really up to standard in terms of songwriting in comparison to the previous two albums. So I feel as though that's why this one isn't really considered one of Kanye West's best albums. However, for me, this is one of my favourites in his discography, and maybe I'm completely wrong for thinking that, but I don't know, I just always love this album. This album easily has some of the best Kanye West songs ever made on here. Most notably Flashing Lights featuring Dwele on the chorus, which is absolutely beautiful. This song is just pristine. The production on this song is absolutely perfect. It's one of the best songs I think I've ever heard, to be honest. Easily one of the best of that entire decade. And yeah, that song is just wonderful. The vocal sample that crops up every now and then on the track, flashing lights, 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 is really well incorporated into the song, and anyone that loves Kanye West must know that this is one of his best. Can't Tell Me Nothing is this braggadocious track from Kanye West. Again, his flow and rhymes are really completely different to the rest of the album on this track, which you could kind of say that is what makes this album less lovable, because each track doesn't really follow the same kind of production style. It could be a little bit messy as well, but I think this track does fit into the album pretty well. Good Morning is the perfect opener for this album. It's probably the best opening track on any Kanye West album ever. Everything I Am features incredible production from the legendary DJ Premier. Of course, whenever he gets on any song, the production is the shining element of the track. And even Good Life, the sort of outdated banger which features T-Pain. I mean, this probably hasn't aged well, but I can still put this on and jam the hell to it. I absolutely love this track. Which does now, in retrospect, get me wondering where the hell T-Pain went, but I'm not really sure at this point. And I really must mention Homecoming. I think this is an underrated Kanye West song, absolutely underrated. And I think it's because it features Chris Martin of Coldplay. Now, it's quite a strange collaboration. You don't usually get this sort of thing in hip hop, especially not back then anyway. You wouldn't really get that crossover. But Kanye West always did stuff like that. I mean, he did it on Late Registration with the Adam Levine feature. Those little like crossover pop songs that he does really always work well. And of course, speaking of crossover pop songs, we have to talk about the massive single Stronger, which interpolated the Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger sample from, of course, Daft Punk, the legendary Discovery album that came from. And this song I've always liked, but it's always irked me a little bit because of the sample. Like, when it's such an obvious sample use, I'm usually put off by it on a track. But I don't know, I think Kanye West managed to make this song work for his own. I mean, he's always been about himself, his sort of selfish attitude, bit of a narcissist, and this song is the most narcissistic it can get, and Kanye West always manages to do it well. But again, though, it does really sound very of the time that it came out, especially the feature on this album from Lil Wayne as well. Some of the tracks do sound very of the time, and I think that's why this album hasn't really aged well for a lot of people. As Kanye West's albums are typically known for being forward thinking, for starting trends, for being that kind of completely different sound in a world of music which is kind of following trends, and then Kanye West will jump in and change the course of the trends. And this album wasn't really one that did that in the same way that his previous ones did, and of course My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy did. 808s and Heartbreaks also did it. But to me, that doesn't change the fact that this album is still quite amazing, and it's one of my favourites in his discography. I wouldn't know where I'd rank it, but I've always honestly thought I preferred this to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is probably my most controversial opinion ever, but I guess that's just the way it is. So you can totally comment below and tell me how wrong I am for that, but I still think this is a great album. I would probably go with a B plus for this. Again, it's a great album, but it's not perfect. It's quite kind of far from being perfect, and his previous two efforts were pretty much near perfect in comparison to this one. But please do tell me what you think of this album below, where it stands in your Kanye West ranking, if you think it's aged well, if you don't think it's a good album at all, then do let me know. If you did like this video though, make sure you subscribe for more music reviews, and have a good day.